appreciate every facet, every phase, what some may consider to be success, failure, opposition, ups, downs. I appreciate every facet of life, and I firmly believe that life is the greatest classroom, right? And when I encounter situations, my perspective goes to a place of, okay, life, what are you trying to teach me right now? But it wasn't always in that space until the year of 2006, when I was at the University of Tennessee pursuing this dream to go to the NFL, which I soon found out it didn't just stand for National Football League, it also stood for not for long. But when I was pursuing this dream to happen and manifest, in one moment, I lost everything I had been working for my whole life. And the next day when I woke up, my life has never been the same ever again. Right, and so when it happened, not only did it alter my life, God stepped in, used the situation to alter my perspective. And so I look at people, situations, places, and things, I view it differently, right? And so I landed in Seattle a couple of months ago around midnight, right? An amazing thing happened. I land in Seattle, a gentleman picks me up from the airport, and we ride to my hotel, and when I get out of the car, I say to the gentleman, man, thanks a lot, I greatly appreciate it. And he says to me, no problem. I just want to let you know I'll be the guy that's coming back to pick you up in the morning. I said, okay, great. What time would you like for me to be down? He says 7:15. I said, great, I'll see you then. The next morning I come down, we greet each other, we get in the car, we're riding to the venue that I'm scheduled to speak, and maybe 5 minutes into the trip, I look up and I look in the mirror and the gentleman is crying his eyes out. And I say to him, sir, is everything okay? And he responds, I want to paint a picture for you. He said, my normal job is not in transportation. I'm not a driver. He said, my buddy owns the company. He said, whenever he gets overwhelmed with shifts, he'll call me and say, hey man, can you cover a shift? And usually I'll do it because we do a lot of work with the Seattle Seahawks. And so when I drop a guy off, I'll go on the computer, look him up. Pretty cool experience. He says, so naturally, when I dropped you off last night, I went on the computer at my house, I started to look you up, and he said, I saw a video about redirection, and I saw a video about perspective. And he said, the reason I'm crying is because I just lost my wife. My wife just died. He said, and I've been living my life thinking, surely there's nothing else that can bring me the passion, the energy, the fuel, the driving force that my wife once brought me. Surely there's nothing else as purposeful as my wife to make me get up and give everything I got to everything I'm a part of. And he said, when I saw the video, it's not that it could replace my wife because nothing could ever replace my wife. He said, but when I saw the video, the amazing thing it did was it altered my perspective and it gave me a new sense of energy. I said, great. I said, man, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. I said, you said you had 2 kids, right? He said, yep. I said, okay, cool. Could you tell me at a basic level, in the midst of the opposition, how did you get up every single day, put one foot in front of the other, go out of the door, carry on in your career, and raise your other 2 children in the midst of the adversity? Can you tell me when you took the blow, you had to absorb the blow, how did you get up every single day and still look at life with some sort of energy and do what you had to do? Right? Because the quote says it. You judge the character of a person not by where they stand in times of comfort and convenience. You judge the character of a person by where they stand in times of challenges and controversy. Mike Tyson said it best. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Like everybody is on fire for the Lord until opposition happens. Or when the situation or the circumstances change and they don't get what they expected to get. And so I wanted to understand, in the midst of the opposition, how did you get up and how did you carry on and stay committed to your family and to your career? And he said to me, I have to be honest with you. Follow me. He said, my wife had been sick for 30 years. He said she was wheelchair bound. He said the situation in our household had gotten so toxic that every single day we would get up and when we would meet each other in the living room, we would just bicker, argue, fuss, say certain things to each other to the point to where I couldn't take it anymore. And I called one of my buddies and said, I'm leaving. Can I come and stay with you? He said, sure, man, come on. He said, I left. I packed a little night bag. I get to my buddy's house. I get up the next morning. I'm in the mirror and I'm brushing my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, he said he's saying to himself, for rich or for poor. Yeah, we've been pretty poor. For better or for worse. Yeah, things have gotten pretty worse. Through sickness and health. And he stopped, put his toothbrush in his bag, zipped it up, and he said when he looked in the mirror, the conviction said to him, "You didn't finish." He said, "You didn't do what you said you were gonna do. You didn't stand in the pocket how you said you were gonna stand it. You didn't be the man that you told her you were gonna be. You were all good when it was all good, but when things started to go south, you weren't the man that you said you were gonna. You didn't fulfill your promise." And he said the conviction took him right back to his home, and when he walked in the door at his home, his wife was sitting there in a wheelchair, and as soon as he walked through the door, she said, "What are you doing here?" And he said she started giving it to him, and he said to her, "I deserve it, get it out, say everything you gotta say to me." And he said when she finished, he told her, "I just want you to know I'm never leaving again. I'll never go anywhere. Right? No matter how tough it gets, no matter how rough it gets, no matter how bad it gets, I just want you to know I'm gonna stand in the pocket and I'm gonna be here as your husband." I said, "Can I ask you another question?" He said, "Sure." I said, "If you can go back, shift the situation, change anything about it, what would you do differently?" He said, "It's easy." He said, "I would have shifted my perspective and I would have embraced the opposition a lot earlier." He said, because the moment my perspective shifted, not only did my disposition switch, it shifted my whole household. He said, the funny thing is, because of our perspective, we didn't view the opposition as opposition anymore. We started to view the opposition in adversity as an opportunity. I said, bingo. I said, because I'm a firm believer that perspective drives performance every day of the week. How an individual view what they do will always affect how they do what they do. Right? The amazing thing about it is, I love the game of football. Right? I loved everything about it. I was a part of something to where I can inflict violence and not get in trouble for it. Sign me up every day of the week. Right? I loved every bit of it. But I understood very early that the game of football was kind of like this stage. It was a platform that God had provided for me to cultivate a certain level of excellence and greatness so that one day when I could no longer play the game, it was certain things I could extract from it to apply to other areas and aspects of my life to make me somewhat of a decent human being. And so the most amazing thing about it was I had a coach, I was just texting him backstage, he changed my life. Right, when I was coming up inner city Atlanta, born to my mother at 16. In a 2-bedroom home with 14 people. And I had this dream to go to the NFL, but I didn't have the resources, and I was stuck playing tackle football in the street. And I saw a guy that paid for not only me and my 3 cousins, he paid for kids all across Atlanta, and he didn't want anything in return. And one day when I got the opportunity to ask him a question, because he had to drop me off at home after practice, and my mother was working a double shift at Wendy's. And I'll never forget, I got out of his truck, and my house was 125 Warren Street at the time.